Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Can you believe time flies? I've nearly owned my 997 for just under 8 years now. It seems like it's gone like that, but I thought the 997 on this channel has not featured very much lately, so I thought it's well overdue for me to put some 997 content because I know a few of you guys who follow the channel that do love that car. But I wanted to put a video out there about the things that I've loved and the things that I do love about this 997 during my near 8-year ownership. It's really kind of specific to me and my ownership, not 997s in general. So it might give you an idea about the things that you may well encounter, the things that you could come up against if you are thinking about buying a 997. But this is kind of like, I'm doing a two-part video, so this is the things that I love about the 997 during my 8-year ownership, and I'll also be doing one about the things that I hate. I might put the things that I hate first and then end on a high with the things that I love. But in any case, let's get to it. So nice to get back into this car and just be driving in this cockpit. It's a place I love to be. So I think one of the first things that I've loved during my ownership is the looks of the car. The 997 to me is the true iconic shape and the true iconic silhouette of the 911. The proportions of the 997 are just absolutely perfect. It's not too big, it's not too small. They had to get bigger, I guess, with age, and they had to redesign the car after the 996 because Porsche were in sort of financial difficulty, and the 997 came out of the back of Porsche's brink with bankruptcy, and they produced a car which had better build quality, looked better, had better body lines, body shape. It was a return to form, I guess you could say. And I think this 997 Carrera 4S with the wide arches and the aero kit minus the spoiler, which is currently on my garage floor, I think this typifies that, and this really shows all of the lines in its true glory and its true beauty. Couple that with the lowered suspension on the car, and yeah, it's turned into something which is really, really special to me and holds a really big place in my heart. So the next thing is the Porsche sports exhaust, and in the 997, I don't know how well you'll be able to pick that up, but we do have quite wet roads, but as we hit about 3,500 RPM, the exhaust really starts to sing its own tune, and it just sounds fantastic. I've listened to a lot of Porsche factory sports exhaust over the years, just through basically driving a lot of them, and I always get back into the 997, and I think the sound of the 997 sports exhaust, to me, sounds better than all of them. They all sound good. Porsche aren't going to make a bad sounding exhaust. The next thing is kind of like, you can talk about facts and figures and performance figures and prices all day long, but one thing I think a lot of people kind of forget to talk about is just the sheer enjoyment of driving these cars. Whoa, we're coming to a crossroads here, and I kind of need to have my wits about me. I'm going to take a right. And yeah, I think in modern day you see a lot of online posts about how it's good to talk and it's good for men's mental health, women's as well, but I think the majority of the owners of these 997s are going to be men. But we see a lot of posts saying, you know, how it's good to talk and you're not alone, and you know, suicide is one of the biggest killers of men between a certain age. Probably men that would probably drive a car like this. And for me, I agree with all of that. I think it's fantastic to talk, because a problem halved is a problem shared. A problem talked about is a problem halved, something like that. But for me, personally, getting in the cockpit of this 997 and just driving it in a spirited manner is 100% a form of therapy in itself. I would liken the driving experience of a 997 as kind of like a drug and a therapy at the same time. So whilst it's also an addiction, it's also a great healer. And you know, if I've got something on my mind, or if I'm feeling down and I just, the front end is quite low on this car and it's just hit the splitter. But if I'm just feeling down, I can pick up the keys to this 997 and I can go on a road like this, and it's all the therapy that I need. You know, I never come back from a drive like this feeling worse. I always feel just that little bit calmer. Seems like I kind of maybe reset my systems a little bit, and I'm able to start thinking about things just a little bit more clearly again. It's good to talk, but it's also good to drive one of these cars. And guys, you know, use this to your advantage. Use this as a selling point to your wife, to your missus, that, you know, it's going to vastly improve your mental health and your general well-being if you buy a 997. Trust me, I mean, it sounds like I'm joking, but honestly, I'm not. It's no joke. It's serious. So I mentioned looks a little earlier in the video, and that brings me on to this point, which is all about the classic looks. I think the 997 is progressing nicely along the Porsche conveyor belt of time. And when I say that, what do I mean? Well, I think that the 997 has aged really, really well. It never really went out of fashion, and it never really dated in the way that I think probably in the early 2000s to the 2010s, the models like the G series, the 964, not the 996, the 993s, should I say, yeah, they kind of dated and nobody really wanted them. And the market proved that, because the prices of those cars were like really, really low. You could pick up like a 993 or a 964 for like 10 grand in the early to mid 2000s, up to about sort of 12, 13, 14-ish, I would say. So I think the 997s, they have experienced a dip in prices, which was always going to happen, but they've never really dipped so far down the scale that nobody wanted them. There's always been a demand for 997s, I feel, in any case. And the 997 may well be the perfect mix between not being able to afford an air-cooled 911 and not wanting to pay the prices of an air-cooled 911, or not wanting to pay the prices of a much newer 911. So the 997 price point sits kind of right in the middle of where you'd probably want to be if you wanted to avoid the older cars, because maybe you weren't that mechanically minded and you want something a little bit more reliable, and you certainly didn't want to pay the prices of the newer 991s or 992 911s. So next up is another bit of therapy, actually. In the 997, this particular car has a manual gearbox. It has a short shift kit on it, and progressing through these gears, it's just beautiful. Be careful a bit here, traffic. But as I progress through the gears, it gives you a sense of engagement, a sense of involvement. You're doing all of this in an automatic or a PDK or a Tiptronic. You're just putting your foot down and go. Well, these manual cars, you're doing all of the work. The car's only progressing through the gears because of the input that you're putting in. And it's so rewarding, because you can get the car to be exactly where you need it to be at any given point. I've got to be careful on this road again, because this is where my splitter can be churned up quite a bit, so I need to keep my speeds down. concentration high, but I can still shift through these gears with ease. Understanding how these 911 work, how these 911s work on these back twisty roads is key, because they can catch you out. This one's not so bad with it being a 4S, so it's a 4-wheel drive. Do yourself a favour and get the manual gearbox and fit the short shift kit as well if it hasn't got it fitted already. So next up is all about how I've found the versatility of the car. Yeah, I mean, we've had family days out in this. You can easily fit 2 adults, 2 kids in the back. It's better with smaller kids, but you can fit small adults, young men, young women in the back there, providing they are part of your own family. That's ideal. But yeah, I mean, you know, I've got a roof box which I've had on the top of this car. I've got a roof tent which I haven't fitted to this, but this car could handle a roof tent. I've got the bike carriers which can fit on the top as well. So, you know, just because you haven't got a lot of space inside doesn't mean that you can't go out and have fun. You can't go away for the weekend and you can't use these cars to scratch that enthusiast itch while you're out with your family and while you're away for weekends with your family or your partner. I think life's too short to drive boring cars, and while we all have to at some point, I guess, you know, the majority of the time I'll always try and find an excuse or an opportunity if we're going away somewhere to be able to take a car like this. It's not always possible, but when it is possible, it's so much more enjoyable and it's so much more engaging, probably more so for me than the rest of the family. And if it was just you and your partner, then you've got plenty storage space in the front for a suitcase. The rear seats actually do fold down flat as well, so you've got a lot of storage space on the back there as well. I should also definitely talk about reliability, because there's a lot of scaremongering online and a lot of talk about bore scoring and IMS issues and a lot of other issues with these 997s. And do you know what? Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying they don't exist. They do exist. But in this particular car, my particular experience, there may be some bore scoring. There's probably bore scoring on every 997, so it would be foolish of me to say that there is no bore scoring, but I've certainly had no IMS issues. The reliability of this car has actually been one of the most reliable cars that I've had during my 8-year ownership of this. I've had other cars break down on me, timing chains that have stretched, or a whole host of other problems on other cars, but this car, the only problem that I've had on this car really is, you may remember a few years ago, I was doing a road trip in Germany when I broke down, had to leave the car in Germany, but that wasn't a fault of the vehicle. That was something I'd kind of come up through the bottom of the car, like a big rock or something, and ruptured a high pressure hose, which meant I lost clutch and brake. So I had a big leak, had to leave the car in Germany, and then had to come back without it, go back out a few weeks later and pick the car up. But other than that, I've had no real issues with the car. The odd suspension component, you know, tyres, servicing, the things that you have to change in any case. So it's been really, really reliable, and it's never let me down. Always garage the car where possible, but that doesn't mean it's hidden away from the elements. So I've driven this car in the snow, in the soggy rain. I drive this car in all seasons, and I will be continuing to do that this year as well. And then if I am caught out in something which is a little bit undesirable, then, you know, I'll make sure it all gets clean after driving it. And this car to me is like Genesis. You know, it's where my love affair really, really took off. Yes, I had a 996 and a 991 before I owned this 997, but before those I just kind of liked Porsches. The 997 took it that notch higher for me, and I've been to so many events, so many shows, and I've made so many friends. The amount of people in my friends circle now because of this car, well, not probably because of this car, but it's put me in those situations, it's put me in those circles whereby a lot of the people that I go out driving with on these weekend drives, you know, they're all as a direct result of me having this 997. So it owes me a lot, this 997, and I've got a real gratitude towards it. Like I say at the start of the video, I'll be making a video on the things that I've not liked about this ownership. You may well have already seen this video, because it's not all sunshine and roses with these 997s, and that video will explain all of that. But I hope you've enjoyed this. I'll see you on the next video, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourselves.